Property Tribes TV is delighted to welcome Richard Lambert, CEO of the NLA, National Landlords Association. So welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
Just first of all, just give us an overview of the history of the NLA.
The NLA developed out of the Small Landlords Association. We're actually celebrating the 40th year since the formation of the SLA. The decision was taken about 10 or so years ago that the SLA needed to grow into a national organisation because there was a feeling that there wasn't a really effective national voice for small private sector landlords. So that was driven forward over the past 10 years under the guidance of our chairman, David Salisbury, and we now work with 38,000 landlords, including 21,000 paying members.
Well, congratulations on your 40th birthday. That's brilliant. But let's talk a little bit in detail. How does the NLA serve the needs of landlords?
Again, our focus is primarily on the small private sector landlord. So what I find that most small business trade associations really look at is how they can give hands-on practical advice, guidance and information to their members, and that's our first and foremost our focus. But we've always had a major element of lobbying around to provide a political and representative voice for the private sector landlords, and my background is as a lobbyist, so that's one of the reasons I think that I was brought in as chief executive. And the other thing that we're very committed to is promoting and developing the standards in the sector. We put a lot of investment into education and guidance and accreditation, and that helps us to ensure that landlords are aware of their rights and their responsibilities.
Absolutely, because many landlords tend to work in isolation, so the NLA can be a great resource for them to remain compliant, keep up to date with the latest issues that they need to be aware of.
Absolutely, and also to bring them together. We run something like 400 branch meetings every year. On every working night of the week, there's probably 2 NLA meetings going on somewhere around the country. We're just trying to get landlords together to enable them to hear some of the up-to-date information, but also just to share their experience and to feel that they're not alone in what they're doing.
Now, I think your organisation is needed now more than ever because there's so much turbulence in the PRS, there's the threat of regulation, there's all sorts of changes happening. So I think landlords should recognise what you offer. And how can they get involved with NLA?
If they go to the website, they can register as a landlord associate. That's free, and that gives them access to our forms, tenancy agreements and all the supporting forms that go with that. And they can see what we do and give the advice and information. If they think that we can really benefit them, if they want to get more into it, then they can join as a member, and we have a variety of memberships to suit individual circumstances, either as an individual member, as a family member, or as a business.
Now, what do you see as the greatest challenges facing the private sector landlord?
The greatest challenge facing the private sector landlord, I think, is the way that housing is changing in this country. I think we're at the early stages of a massive shift in society in the way we house ourselves. Comparable to the way that it shifted between the 1950s and 1980s, moving from renting to owner occupation. I wouldn't like to predict at this stage where we're going to end up, and I think it's too soon for anybody to really say where we will end up. What I do think, and the private rented sector is going to be have a much bigger part to play in how we house ourselves as a nation.
Indeed. And do you think, just to finish, that the landlords, the sort of successful landlords of the future, the ones that survive these challenging times, do you think it's going to be the landlords who actually connect with other landlords and join a professional body and keep trying to raise their game and understand their obligations and keep moving forwards?
Absolutely. Continuous improvement is a part of any successful business, and you have to keep looking to the future. You have to keep understanding how things are changing around you, and most of all, you have to be prepared to change to meet the needs of your customers. And I think that's something which the private rented sector is actually quite good at, but needs to get better at, because that customer base is changing.
Absolutely, because without tenants, none of us have a business. So we've always got to have them at the forefront of our minds and how we can better serve them.
Yeah, and I think it's always worth being aware that we're in a free market and a competitive market. If the people who are supplying property now don't meet the needs of their tenants and the desires of their tenants, then somebody else will see the competitive opportunity and come in, and that's the way life works.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Richard. It's a pleasure to meet you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.